Good evening, or morning, and welcome to Convoy Conspiracies. I'm up late into the night, actually the early morning, can't sleep. So I'm gonna drive, and you can tag along with me. Currently, we're sitting at 139,000 euros, one garage. Pull that up here. In Santiago, Chile. Daily profit of 21,000 euros. Productivity is at 87%. 2 out of 3 drivers. Of course, one of those drivers is me. We look at the driver manager. You can see here I'm pulling in 22,000 euros a day. We have another driver, Martin, who's losing 1,200 euros a day. So that's kind of a problem. The goal is to finish the current freight job that we're on. The income from that will be 220,000 euros, with which, combined with the 140,000 euros I have currently, I'll be able to purchase an additional truck and a garage in, I'm thinking Calais, France, or somewhere in Europe, centralized location, where my drivers can make a better profit. The thing about the situation we're in now, we pull up the garage manager. We've got this garage in Santiago, Chile, and the rates for jobs there are much lower, like 5 euros per kilometer, whereas in Europe you tend to get better rates. So that's what I'm going to do with my trucking company, and all we've got to do is haul this driller to Tunisia. So that's what we're doing. Currently we've passed La Boulay, heading toward Junín, Luján, and Buenos Aires. From there on to Rosario. So let's see how far we can get in the early morning hours here. And we'll continue more of our conspiracy discussion. So let's get started. So, okay, let's see. I need to recenter my view. Okay, we're this gas station here. Just fourth, 6th, 7th, 9th. That really. Come on, FH16. What do we got? 80. Okay. Got the speed cruise control set. Alright. So we're ready to go. Alright, so A nice little community over there. All their lights on, so what time is it? Oh, it's only 9 p.m. Okay, that's understandable. Alright, let me get back in my lane here. Alright. So, what were we discussing? We were discussing science. The idea of science. Should science be used as it is used currently in the system of public education? Because science serves as the wedge or the crux or the linchpin for a whole host of arguments in this modern age. Whereas in the past centuries of the United States of America, in the, let's say, the 19th century, biblical truths were accepted. Christianity was the dominant force in the nation. And it was successful during that period. But starting in the 20th century, you had a transition to academic control over thought as opposed to religious control. And so the academics embraced evolution, for instance, as the oh look, there's Junin, Argentina over to the left here. Let's just take a quick look outside. Some high rises, kind of rock outcroppings here. Okay, Junin, Lujan, and Buenos Aires are ahead. We're not stopping. Junin, although a lot of people are leaving for some reason. Okay. So let's hop back in the cab. Oh, look at that. Some kind of mountain retreat up there. That's interesting. Alright, so yes, evolution is kind of a catch-all phrase for science that is exploratory in nature. And since that time, in the 1920s, at the Scopes trial, where the teacher who started the whole thing as a publicity stunt was ultimately exonerated and allowed to teach evolution as he saw fit. At least that's my understanding of it. I may need to do some more reading on the subject, but basically it was at the Scopes trial that the dominance of religiosity, or Christian religiosity, ended in America and ended in public schools. Like I've stated before, the idea of mandatory public schooling itself leads towards statism, leads towards this conclusion. This was just a point along the path, a stopping place where America, who had accepted the idea of public education, was now made fully aware of its implications. And a choice was made to continue in that vein, but to continue while dropping the promises that had been originally made to the people of the United States that public education would only help and serve their children in a way that the parents and local communities could not accomplish with their resources. And it really was a turning point where a lot of conservative Americans gave up the idea that education, public education, would actually work in this manner. Whoa, 30. Red light. We got a road hazard here. Okay. Alright, so this view always makes me so sick. Although it looks fine on screen, but my gosh, is it nausea-inducing. Okay. So the problem with evolution, and some of you that may listen to this ultimately one day will no doubt believe in evolution as scientific fact, a foundation, a building block of all science. But I would not agree. Evolution is not a building block of much of anything. At least the central claims of evolution aren't. Evolution states that certain kinds of animals become completely different kinds of animals or plants at certain points in time, and that this is always occurring. But, like I said, the evolution attempts to, the theory of evolution, and evolutionists, as they exist today, make a mistake. They confuse genetics with evolution. Evolution is the claim that these types of creatures are changing from one thing to another, adapting new constructs and features such as eyeballs and ears and snouts and things like that. That has never been observed, ever, and will no doubt never be observed. And they'll say, well, it takes millions of years, this, that, and the other. But just because you can't test it doesn't mean you can then turn around and say that it's a fact. If you can't test it, you can't assume it's a fact. Period. That's what the scientific method demands, Genetics was in practice for millennia. Throughout all of human history, genetics has been practiced and understood to an extent that it could be used and achieve results. People could trust that if they bred this creature or this plant in a certain way, they would achieve a certain response. They had developed the science of genetics centuries and millennia before Darwin ever came around. So you see, evolution is not central to all of physical science at all. Genetics may be, and I'm not contesting that it isn't, but evolution is actually a subset of genetics. A theory, a construct that incorporates what we know about genetics and attempts to elaborate on its long-term effects. But again, those long-term effects are not observable. They're not based on any real observations and tests and confirmations of theories. Just not. And so, like a lot of the other cosmological constructs that make up the current religion of atheism or scientism as it exists in the United States and Europe and throughout the world, you will find a common theme. You will find that these claims cannot be tested. You know, no one's contesting me as a Christian, actually as a Latter-day Saint, formerly known as Mormon, but a Christian nonetheless, and I'll happily argue that with you if anybody has a comment on that. But as a Christian, anyway, I'm losing my train of thought here. These flashing lights are distracting me. And it's pretty late, pretty early in the morning. Kind of tired, but just not able to sleep. I mean, back to that trial in the 1920s, the Scopes trial. You know, William Jennings Bryan, the attorney, the prosecutor, you know, he was willing to concede that evolution could be presented to students as a theoretical construct. He had a more, I guess, simplistic view of the Bible as unerring fact, more of what you would call a fundamentalist approach, even though he shunned the term fundamentalist. But, you know, he believed that the Bible should be part of scientific, should be part of the science paradigm, and that it should actually serve as the starting point from which to conduct scientific inquiry, rather than just randomly coming up with things such as, and that's the way he characterized evolution, as kind of this random grasping at a solution, which he was correct, it was. It was an appeal to randomness, an appeal to random chance producing highly complex systems that grow more complex over time. That in itself is a violation of natural law. We've never observed random interactions becoming more complex over time. In fact, we observe quite the opposite. The second law of thermodynamics, the law of entropy, these types of laws of science, which are far more trustworthy than theories, because they have been based upon observation, show us that that's not what happens. Complicated forms and structures tend to break down over time. And there's been nothing to demonstrate the opposite on a true scientific level. So, okay, where are we here? I'm sorry. We are in Buenos Aires. Wow. Turn off the signal here. Okay, so lots of, we're in a nice little subdivision here. Just driving through the middle of the city, apparently. And this is the first time I've seen it in VR. It looks a little silly, but, you know, not bad. Yeah. Nice little neighborhood. They've got the caution lights turned on, so we can just plow through the middle, through these lights without any real concern. Lots of apartment buildings over there in Volpe Sempre. Not sure what that means. I'll have to look that up. Okay, we're going to be taking a left up ahead. onto a major highway. All right. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna hit that sign. Oh, frack. Oh gosh. Ah. Okay. Alright, I would have failed that lesson in trucking school. Ran right into that sign. And got damaged my trailer, that 1% damage here. And yeah, you can wait on me. Sorry about that. Alright, Buenos Aires. Very impressive subdivisions. Didn't really see any sights worth mentioning. There's been a church over there. On the map. Okay, we're still kind of going through it here, so let's see what we can see out here. More Buenos Aires. Okay. And I'm sorry for losing my train of thought. It's why is he driving around with his lights on? You know, I've seen that driving in Mexico. Cars just driving, well, police vehicles or some type of security vehicles driving around with their lights flashing. Very disconcerting when they're right behind you doing it. And you tend to want to pull over, but they just keep driving. And you do that once or twice and you stop pulling over. For cars with flashing vehicles. So if they want to pull you over, I'm not sure. I think they have a bullhorn or something that shouts things at you in Spanish. So next time I'm in Mexico, I won't fall for that light trick. Alright, so back up. Oh, somebody on the side of the road here getting a ticket in an RV. That's very sad. Okay. Traffic is picking up here. We're in the big city. So we got Rosario, Argentina ahead. Alright. Check the map here. We're heading north now before we're gonna cut to the west and head up towards Rosario. Oh, they're into wind power here. Look at that. So efficient. So eco-friendly. Alright, so speed limit is at 110. Who knows how long it's going to stay there. I'll just pop up to 100 and just keep an eye out for speed limit signs. Yep, it dropped back to 90. Ooh, we're coming into another part of town here. Okay, Zarate. Zarate. Not sure how to say that, but oh my gosh. I just stuffed it on the gear shifting. Oh, they got some kind of docks over here, shipping containers. That's nice. Oh my gosh, we got caught by another light. Alright, so we're not quite out of the greater Buenos Aires metropolitan area quite yet. But we're getting close. Another light, another couple lights. So, Evolution, it's not empirical. The central claims of it are not. Not outside of genetics. I'm sorry, it's just not. It's almost statistically, mathematically impossible, the central claims of genetics, or of evolution, to be true. That, the argument there is that, if monkeys are typing, at one point they will produce Shakespeare. But who says monkeys are typing? Why would monkeys be typing? Why would any of this stuff work out the way they claim it has worked out? There is artificial life that has been created, and thus goes against the idea that life springs from nothing. And, artificial life is a very complex thing to create. So why would we think that life, which is an incredibly complex machine, you might say, construct, why would we assume that it would spring out of nothing? And why would we assume that it would change into something that it is not? If this is a classic analogy, but if I were to walk into the woods in a deserted area and find a watch lying there on the ground, I wouldn't assume, or it wouldn't be logical or scientific for me to assume that the watch just randomly appeared there, right? The watch has a purpose, it has functions, it has parts and pieces that work together. It's a system, okay? And even if I were to analyze the rocks and minerals and other raw materials that were present in the watch and find them there in the surrounding area, it still wouldn't be logical for me to assume that the watch was just through lightning striking the ground and the wind blowing and the water rushing around it, the watch just came to be after millions of years. It doesn't make any sense. It's not based on anything. It's not based on science, certainly. It's not based on observation, certainly. Oh my gosh! The speed limit changed and I got just got a massive ticket, 560 euros. God, horrible. Yeah, I get distracted on these issues I feel strongly about. Crap. We're down to 138,000 euros now. Damn it. But yeah, it would be foolish to assume these things. And it is foolish to assume them. In any case, for anything, life is far more than it was originally thought to be when Darwin came up with the theory of evolution. It has been shown that at the molecular level, interactions are taking place. That, within DNA is basically code. Code we don't completely understand. We have a very bare grasp, simple grasp of DNA. We don't know what all its capabilities are. We don't know what everything means within DNA. Where is this? Doesn't really say. Just a nice little neighborhood with a steepled tower. I guess that's a church. Catholic, probably. More churches, maybe? I don't know. Can't really tell. There's no real scientific basis for the central claims of evolution. It's just an alternative to believing in God as a creator. I mean, if you were really scientific, Oh my gosh, I gotta get over here. Oh. Let's get going here. Speed limit dropped drastically down to 50. Okay. Okay. These guys are working at 2:50 in the morning. Kind of cruel and unusual work schedule there. But you know, that may be how things roll, how they roll in South America, you know. Let's check our sleep status. We're actually getting close. Need to we're coming up on a petrol station. Need to see if there's going to be any problems getting to another one. Oh no, we got one up here, so we'll take another look when we get close to this one, close to Santa Fe. And we'll just keep trucking along here, and I'll keep ranting on about evolution. Alright, let's speed back up. 8th gear, 9th gear. And let's just try push it up to 10th. He's pulling out. We'll cruise at 82 here. So, yeah, as time has gone on, evolution as a theory, as a theoretical construct, as a supposed fundamental principle of all natural science, has actually lessened. It's not really fundamental to anything. And what I was going to say was that if I was a true scientist, I would consider the possibility that life on this world was introduced. I mean, when we see life, let's say Galapagos Islands or something, the famous island that Darwin visited. When we see life there, we assume that maybe a bad, but his take on Galapagos was that the life there just kind of, it arrived there in some previous iteration of itself, some previous form, and then it evolved and adapted to that particular environment. Didn't observe it. He just saw the animals as they were and assumed that the changes or the differences between other animals was due to this prolonged adaptation, genetic adaptation, natural selection over time. So, but when we see life, we know it's been introduced, okay? Even Darwin conceded that. He didn't assume that the life there just kind of sprang out of the rocks, out of pools of mud or chemicals or whatever, struck by lightning. He didn't assume that, as far as I know. I'm sure some atheist zealot will inform me otherwise, but as far as I know, he didn't assume that. And it doesn't really make sense to assume that life springs from nothing. So when it comes to abiogenesis, that is that stands as the alternative to creation, and it's a very weak alternative. Extremely weak. Has no scientific support whatsoever. It's like finding a factory in the middle of the woods, literally, in terms of complexity. An advanced state-of-the-art factory in the middle of the woods and assuming, it just kind of sprung into being. So that's the problems with evolution. It doesn't serve as anything other than a way for scientists who reject God and use science as a means to accomplish this, it just serves as a framework for their belief system. It's kind of like an empty shell. And then they just throw the word around, and when they mean things like genetics, which is an actual science. So I'm sure this will come up in the future, and I'm going to do some more reading on evolution, at least on my perspective of evolution, and share some of that on here. Okay, where are we now? We're in Rosario, big city, Rosario, Argentina. The speed limit says 80, so go ahead and set that and keep on pushing through here. We do not need to stop. Okay. Speeding. 50. Gosh, where am I missing these signs? Okay, Santa Fe ahead. It's now 80, so I just had a short little spell where it was 50, and I got a ticket immediately. Wonderful. Check my bank account. We're still in 138, but at this rate, tickets, who knows how long that'll last. So what's the end result? You accept public education. You allow the government to dictate this as a requirement. And then the government removes God from the equation and replaces God with itself, with humanity, with experts, with people claiming to have all the answers, even though they have no way to really scientifically prove these answers. They just, by virtue of being quote-unquote scientists in white coats, they are assumed to have the answers. They are the modern equivalent of the medieval priests. They have access to information the common man does not understand or does not have access to. Scientific journals have paywalls that prevent the public from really accessing anything for no real reason. I mean, what's the point of having these articles behind a paywall? I guess the researchers want to make money, but they usually work off of grants anyway. I mean, if science was so open and free and transparent and magnanimous, there wouldn't be paywalls to scientific research. But in terms of scientists serving as a sort of priesthood of scientism and of the state, it definitely serves a purpose there. What rational human being who's not directly involved in some type of research, what person is going to waste their resources on scientific papers that are usually not even repeatable, or usually have very little value at all? So that's where it stands with science. Peer review. Oh my gosh, that is the funniest thing ever. What is it about peer review that guarantees truth? What is it about peer review and consensus that leads one to have absolute confidence in things that can't be tested empirically? Peer review is just a certain group of people agreeing to a certain set of beliefs. That's all it is. The typical tactic scientists will use nowadays is, even if someone conducts valid research into, say, something like vaccines, and finds that children who are unvaccinated are healthier in some respect, that will not pass peer review. Why? It's not because the person didn't use the scientific method. It's because science is run by priests or scientists. And science is so convoluted and confusing to average people because they've made it that way, that they'll find some nitnoid issue or supposed problem with their technique, and they'll just fixate on that one thing, ignore everything else about the research, and get a few other of their associates to agree with them, and they'll all write together how horrible this research is because it opposes their objectives. You know, and I'll get into vaccines in the future, but more in the future. But yeah, vaccines are a very powerful tool bag in the socialist and statist arsenal. They don't want to give that up. To be able to inject things into people without any kind of real accountability, they gotta get off on that. So let's see. Let's check our map here. My gosh. Okay, so we got this gas station coming up. We're approaching Santa Fe. We got another gas station there. Let me quickly. Yeah, we need to sleep. So, oh my gosh, it's freezing. Oh, that's exciting. Whenever the game freezes. Okay, so we have made it to another rest stop. Got the power. Oh, let me pull up a little bit. Fill her up. Start her back up. Gas tank is full. We're gonna go grab some Z's. Still in 138. Even though they don't pay much in South America on the EAA maps, diesel is cheap, so that is one side benefit. Hit the parking brake. And let's just stretch our legs here a little bit. Oh, these Russian trucks, man. Look at this. Oh boy. Somebody's honking. Mexican truck. Hey. Oh, somebody's behind me. Who's back there? I don't even see anybody. There's somebody over in that other lane there? Huh. Anyway. Oh, gosh, that's annoying. Okay, let's jump back in the cab here. Somebody back there wants to get out of the gas station and I'm blocking them. Well, too damn bad. Alright, well, let's get some sleep here. Alright. Okay, well, loan installment of 246 was paid. We're still in the 138,000 euros. So, lost a bit with tickets and whatnot. But actually, I'm going to press on because I'm still not tired enough to sleep. So, turn off the parking brake. Let's get going. Oh! There's a lot of trucks moving here. Okay. Boy. Okay. Okay, we got on the highway. So, the priestly class, doctors, scientists, and lawyers have replaced the religious monastic orders of old. And we have new monastic orders that aren't really monks at all. Yeah, it's pretty frustrating. Just like the priests back then, these scientists, doctors, experts, and the political class, the professional class that kind of lorded over the rest of us, the common man, they're just human. They make mistakes. They're susceptible to corrupt influences. At least back in, those older times with the priests, they at least had the scriptures as a guideline for how to live their lives, even if they didn't always live up to that, and even if in their exercise of the power they had, they didn't always adhere to it. At least that was what was expected, But now, with the atheist viewpoints and lifestyle, there is no constraints on what they'll do. And that's where a lot of these conspiracies that this channel, what we will be discussing on this channel, originate from, is that we don't trust these people. I don't trust someone just because they're a doctor. People are conditioned to do that. I don't trust someone because they call themselves a scientist and they're accepted by certain institutions as a scientist and they wear a white coat. I've been told that I need to accept them and listen to them and what they have to say, but I don't trust them. I know what they are. I know that they can't make decisions for me or my family, that they're acting based on influences usually involving money. That is the common ingredient in all of this. You can get people to say or do just about anything with money. Just look at what happened at Sandy Hook, at the shenanigans going on there. Lots of money changed hands, and if you're not someone who can abide the idea that New England town participated in a giant hoax, then yeah, you should probably leave this channel, because that's one of the most obvious. Whoa, what is that? Oh, that's a bridge. Okay. Oh wow, that's a big bridge. Let's head out here. What's my speed? Oh, I'm speeding like crazy. Okay. What does it say? R10 Parana. Whoa, I'm just a piece of grass there. I love to cross the bridges going outside the truck. You can just see so much more. Whoa. Some big cables there. Ika, Nebel. Russians have invaded South America. Okay, we're entering another country here. We're coming on the border. Okay, so let's jump back inside the truck. Alright. Gotta watch that speed limit. Is this a border checkpoint or just a toll? Okay. Alright, let's pay our euros. €24. Right out of my bank account. Oh. Okay. Get up this hill. So yeah, we have a modern day priesthood in the United States and in the West in general, the Five Eyes nations, those being United States, Great Britain, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. They share pretty much everything, to include all these corrupt corporate medical practices and the like. Okay, where is this? Okay, so I'm starting to have some kind of performance issues here. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm starting to feel a little tired in real life, you know. So I'll go ahead and call this one quits. And we'll talk to you again real soon. This is Convoy Conspiracies, signing off.